Over half of the agriculture households are in debt across India. Yes, in 2019, the figure was 50.2%. The figures are even more startling in the southern state, where most of the agriculture households are in debt, as high as 93.2% in Andhra Pradesh, 91.7% in Telangana, and 69.9% in Kerala. Consequently, at least one farmer died by suicide every hour in India. As per the NCRB data, 11,290 farmers committed suicide in India in 2022. This makes for 6.6% of all the suicides in the country. Farmer suicide is a global phenomenon, and even countries like the US, Canada, and Australia have seen significantly higher suicide rate amongst farmers than the general population. But the situation is just too grave in India, as more than 50% of the Indian workforce is engaged in agriculture, which contributes to just 20% to the country's GDP. India has responded to this mammoth crisis with loan waivers, increasing minimum support prices, direct cash transfers, and other schemes. But are these enough? Will feeding the mandi monopoly help our farmers? Or do we need fundamental and structural reforms to address this complex problem? Indian farmers face such multitudes of challenges that their plight is often too large, too grave to even comprehend. The margin between life and death of a farmer in India is as slight as one bad monsoon or one bad loan. While India accounts for more than 17% of the world population, it has barely 2.5% of the land in the world. With a rising population, division of land amongst family leads to land fragmentation, and then farming on such small land holdings becomes unsustainable. Farming becomes viable only when the farm size exceeds 1 hectare or 2.5 acres. And more than 70% of farmers in India own farms smaller than that or are farm laborers with no land. Similarly, India is a water-stressed country with just 4% of the world's water resource. So when more than 50% of India's agriculture depends on rainfall, this is bound to lead to hardships for the farmers. This problem becomes even more stark when focus is on water-intensive crops like rice and sugarcane. To produce 1 kg of rice, Indian farmers use 3,000 to 5,000 liters of water, whereas Chinese farmers manage it within 350 liters of water. This shows India suffers from a very poor irrigation water productivity. Even if some farmers manage to have land and irrigation, agriculture credit and debt stares them in the face. 1. Small and marginal farmers produce very little surplus, and 2. Even during bumper crops, they do not get remunerative prices. So it becomes impossible for them to afford agriculture inputs for the next cropping cycle without taking loans. With the lack of formal credit, they are left at the mercy of informal money lenders. All of these problems are further aggravated due to irregular monsoons. Sometimes you have droughts, and at other times floods or other natural calamities. Apart from these issues, India's farming sector also struggles from policy stagnation. The last major reform in the sector was the Green Revolution in the 1960s and 70s. While the Green Revolution did help India become self-sufficient in food grains, focus was limited to affluent states like Punjab, Andhra Pradesh, and Tamil Nadu. And while farm loans are waived frequently, new schemes are regularly launched, MSPs are hiked, direct cash transfers are giving some relief to farmers, but these aren't long-term and sustainable. In recent years, the Indian government has taken steps towards modernizing agriculture. One of the key focus areas has been farm mechanization, aimed at improving productivity and efficiency. The Mission on Agricultural Mechanization has been a cornerstone of these efforts. Under this, financial assistance and subsidies are provided to small and marginal farmers for the purchase of farm machinery and equipment. Government has established custom hiring centers or CHCs, which provide affordable access to modern high-cost farm machinery on a rental basis. As of now, over 14,000 custom hiring centers have been established across India. 10,000 farmer producer organizations or FPOs across the country are playing a vital role in facilitating collective purchase and use of machinery. The results are evident. According to the Ministry of Agriculture, the overall mechanization level in India has increased to over 45% in the recent years. Over the last decade, we have seen several heartening initiatives for our farmers. Schemes like PM Kisan providing monetary support have been life-saving. Focus on natural farming, agroforestry, mixed farming, millets, and less water-intensive crops are welcome. Irrigation-cum-income schemes like PM Kusum are a novelty. Neem coating of urea, nano urea are all praiseworthy steps, but sadly, these aren't enough. At first, we need a relook at minimum support prices. MSPs are needed for now, but just look at the issues due to the sheer bad economics. Can we really deny the strain on government finances here? The fiscal burden is huge and unsustainable in the long run. Moreover, several MSP-supported crops like paddy and sugarcane are water-intensive, leading to over-exploitation of water resources. This results in the neglect of non-MSP crops and distorted cropping patterns. An additional problem is the red tapeism and corruption at the hands of middlemen. And lastly, the rotting grains and wastage. This is because the government is forced to buy such huge quantities, which are almost double the requirement for buffer stocks, PDS and other government schemes such as midday meal schemes. So yes, MSPs need rationalization. Next is the issue of the monopoly of mandis. As of today, APMC acts across the states in India make it compulsory for farmers to sell their produce only at the APMC mandis. This effectively leaves the farmers at the mercy of APMC officials, agents, merchants, big farmers and cartels. They are forced to pay bribes. Farmers are frequently not paid for months. Sometimes they are grossly underpaid. At other times, they are not paid at all. In addition to these corrupt practices at these mandis, farmers are forced to pay several kinds of market fees, cess or levies even when the facilities at these mandis are poor. So while farmers are trapped at these mandis, they cannot sell their produce directly to anyone outside these mandis or outside their state. Even when they are getting better prices or even when their produce is sometimes rotting in the shoddy warehouses at these mandis. All of this leads to vicious exploitation of farmers and makes them vulnerable to indebtedness, poverty and suicides. Regulation of mandis is needed to ensure farmers aren't exploited at the whims of contractors and big farmers. Unnecessary taxes and levies must be rationalized and eliminated. There is an urgent need for reforms wherein farmers are allowed to sell their produce outside these mandis at better prices. Contract farming is something that should be looked at while ensuring enough protection to farmers so that they do not fall into the traps of private corporations. The Model Contract Farming Act, which aimed to protect farmers engaged in contract farming, was a good example of this. It ensures good price for farm produce while also protecting farmers from land grabbing and indebtedness. The problem is that such model laws were not adopted by all the states in India. Reforms that allow farmers to sell their produce outside their state will not only help them get a better price, it will also go a long way in creating one nation, one market for barrier-free trade in agriculture. Other than that, we must pull the excess workforce out of farming. Land consolidation will help small farmers come together and do viable farming. Small marginal farmers should be encouraged towards these changes. All in all, India's farming sector needs a serious rejig. India has reaped the benefits of watershed structural reforms like liberalization, privatization and globalization in the 90s. These LPG reforms pulled India out of the permit license quota Raj and dingy dens of socialism and state control. It won't be wrong to say that had India not been pushed to the wall with the economic crisis in the 90s, these reforms would have been difficult to bring about given the romanticization of state control in our polity. Such is the aversion to any change, even if positive, that we are ready to pay for stagnancy even with the lives of our fellow citizens. Will India have to wait for such grim urgency once again for structural reforms in our farming sector? And if yes, aren't we already staring at the grimmest of times? How many lives till we finally realize that hard and shaking reforms are not just a necessity but a responsibility? We need to start looking at our farmers as humans. Humans beyond statistics and numbers, humans under severe distress. And maybe then we will heed to this responsibility. What do you think is stopping us from shedding the hesitation? This is Urvi. See you in the next one.